Well, picture this. It's the early 1960s. Television was still trying to figure itself out. Sitcoms, cozy, predictable worlds. Yeah, dad went off to work, mom stayed at home, blah, blah, blah. Simple stuff. Then one show comes along and quietly tears up the rule book. Oh yes, a show that built the house your favorite comedies like The Office or 30 Rock live in today. And you might not even realize it. But I can explain. Paul here, actor and former radio host. Today I'm diving into a show that, well, it kind of flipped the script. Yeah, the DIck Van Dyke Show. Ran from 1961 to 1966, and it was way more than just a string of half-hour laughs. It was a revolution in a cardigan, tripping over an ottoman. Sometimes. Anyway, it was created by Carl Reiner. It starred Dick Van Dyke as Rob Petri. Yeah, he was a comedy writer, and it also had Mary Tyler Moore as his wife Laura. What made it a big deal, you ask? It was one of the first sitcoms to brilliantly show two worlds at once. Wait, huh? Yeah, Rob's high-pressure job as a TV writer and his often hilarious home life. It juggled both without dropping a beat.
Oh, my God. Was that on television?
No, it wasn't on television, but you did put on quite a show.
You were in the courtroom today.
Mm-hmm.
What? Now, honey, now, wait a minute. Now, wait. I can explain nothing. I can't
That double-story approach, it seemed like a simple thing, but it changed everything. Rewind, yeah. Into the late 50s, early 60s. Sitcoms stayed in their lanes. Family shows like Leave It to Beaver, Ozzie and Harriet. The dad's job was off-screen. Just a concept, with a briefcase. Sometimes you never even really knew what the dad did. I know Ward Cleaver worked with Lumpy Rutherford's dad, who, of course, later played Mel Cooley. But, to be honest, I don't know what Mr. Cleaver did for a living. Then there were the workplace comedies, but you never saw their home life. You see, treating work and home as equally important and kind of letting them collide was brand new. Most stories were quick gags or misunderstandings, and they worked. But the Dick Van Dyke Show offered something deeper. Yeah, sitcoms were cruising right along, and then bam, here's Rob Petri. We get a real peek inside a TV writer's world, the buzzing writer's room for the Alan Brady Show, with Rob, Buddy, and Sally slinging jokes and facing deadlines and dodging the wrath of Alan Brady, played by Carl Reiner himself. Of course, you knew that. Then we were whisked home to New Rochelle, New York, where Rob's married life to Laura, a former USO dancer, and he was dad to their son, Richie. Their home, it wasn't just a background. It had its own stories. Marriage talks, parenting moments, and Laura's growing independence. Yeah. And let's talk about Mary Tyler Moore for a moment, shall we? Those capri pants weren't just fashion. Laura Petri became a cultural icon. She showed a new kind of woman on TV. Kind of modern, smart, stylish, and strong. The magic was in the back and forth. You see, a bad day at work on the Dick Van Dyke Show might spill over into dinner at home. A funny thing at home sparked a sketch idea, and it made Rob and the people around him feel like actual people, not just cardboard cutouts. It also broke physical comedy barriers. Yeah, Dick Van Dyke's signature move, tripping over the ottoman. You've seen it in the opening credits. Yeah, totally unscripted. He just threw himself into it, literally. The producers loved it, and they loved it so much they kept it in, and eventually made it an intentional part of the intro. Oh yeah, good stuff. This wasn't going to be a stiff paint-by-numbers sitcom. Even behind the scenes, things were changing too. Yeah, Reiner originally wrote the show for himself, but CBS rejected it. They rejected the pilot. They recast it with Dick Van Dyke, and boom, magic. Reiner moved behind the scenes, and that's where he found his real genius. As a producer and a writer. It's kind of poetic. A show about a guy writing comedy was created by a guy who was rewriting comedy history. And let's not forget the chemistry between the cast, all right? Yeah, Van Dyke and Moore, they had this spark, funny but also sweet and grounded. Rose Marie and Maury Amsterdam as Rob's co-workers brought kind of a vaudeville sharpness thing. They gave the show bite. Maury Amsterdam is the most naturally funny guy I think I've ever seen on TV. He can say anything and it's funny. And Richard Deacon, of course, as the internally frazzled Mel Cooley, as I mentioned earlier. Comic gold. So how did the 60s show quietly invent modern comedy? Well, you probably already know. Think about it. The Mary Tyler Moore Show? Yeah. Direct offspring. Mary juggling her job and her personal life. Sound familiar? What about 30 Rock? The show within a show chaos. The writer's room energy. And Liz Lemon's messy life. That Rob Petri 2.0. How about The Office? Yeah, all that back and forth between Dunder Mifflin's ridiculous workplace and the characters' personal lives. It's the Petri formula. Parks and Rec, how about that one? Leslie's passion for government mixed with her romantic life and friendships. Again, two worlds, both matter. But it wasn't just structure, no. The Dick Van Dyke Show gave us, character-driven humor. Yeah, the laughs came from believable people in funny situations. Not just pratfalls or pies to the face. That's fun too, but it even touched on social issues and showed a marriage where both partners had deep personalities. That was rare. And filming in front of a live audience. Yeah, that made the laughs real, not canned. Authenticity mattered. It had another big first too. Man, that's coming up in just a moment. But please subscribe for more retro TV deep dives. Okay, another first for Dick Van Dyke. It actually ended on its own terms. 5 seasons, and then wrap it up. No slow decline, no jumping the shark, Fonzie. Just a classy exit. That kind of grace is hard to find even in today's TV. So what do you think? Can you see the Petri DNA in today's sitcoms? Please let me know in the comments. And let me know, what's a modern show that clearly owes something to the Dick Van Dyke Show? Oh, there are a lot. For 5 seasons, Dick Van Dyke Show did more than just get laughs. It redefined what a sitcom could be. It treated viewers like they were smart, and it reflected the full picture of life. Work and home, funny and heartfelt. Carl Reiner and his brilliant team didn't just make a hit, they passed on the DNA that so many modern comedies are still built from. A quiet giant with shoulders that a generation of sitcoms now stand on. I'm getting too deep here. Anyway, that's the legacy. All right, please comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And, if you haven't seen my other video on Rose Marie being possibly actually part of the mob, click on it. It's right over there. And, by the way, my last name has a van in it, too. So, I don't know.